Hi, I'm Stuart Clark, the Managing Director of Russell & Russell.
And I'm Yvonne Webb of Action Coach Business Coaching. And together we are your co-hosts and sponsors of Glasgow Business Stories. We hope you're loving Glasgow Business Stories. So if you are, please do us a favour and subscribe. New episodes drop every 2 weeks, and we want you to hear all the wonderful stories from the businesses here in Glasgow. So please subscribe now. Ross, welcome. Thank you for coming on Glasgow Business Stories.
Good, thank you for inviting me along. Great to be here.
Good. So we always start the same way. Just tell us who you are, what you do.
Okay.
Give us a bit of backstory.
So I'm Ross Wilson, Chief Exec of a company called Vidatec. We're essentially a bespoke software development company, building things like mobile apps, complex web platforms, and like Microsoft Teams apps and things for organisations out there. And obviously building a lot of AI into solutions at this moment in time and supporting customers on that journey. So we're a Glasgow-based business of about 20 people at this moment in time in terms of employed by the business and some contracts and partners that we kind of extend the services through as well. Backstory, essentially, I completed an MBO of the business about 2 years ago now. So been with the business for 7 years, mainly on the client front, been able to kind of work with them, understand the problems and create solutions that kind of make an impact in the business. And yeah, essentially before that I was part of the Insights group that was 17 years. So ended up buying the business away from Insights after spending a long number of years there and working on the Insights side for, 11 or 12 years there before that. And then going way back, started my career properly at Scottish and Newcastle. So back in the beer front, selling beer out there in the kind of Glasgow, Lanarkshire area, which was fantastic. And I always describe it as, it's a bit like Phoenix Nights, lots of working men's clubs and stuff there. And you were the most important person coming in, the man from the brewery and all that kind of thing. But classic kind of sales training started there and then moved through the ranks at there before going across to Insight. So yeah, ended up here running the business of Vidatec now.
And for those who don't know what Insights is, can you give us a bit of colour on that?
So Insights, I think first and foremost a fantastic Scottish success story, a global business in the learning development space, best known for having their Insights Discovery Profile, which is a self-awareness tool, and it's all about helping you understand self and understand others and build relationships and connect more. So lots in that kind of team space and the self-awareness space. And, if you look at the clients they work with, it's incredible in terms of every client you would kind of name as your top organisation you want to work with. They're in there in some way, shape or form. So whether it be top pharma, top tech, across the finance sector, they're in everyday, your Googles, your Microsofts, etc. It's, a fantastic business and headquartered in Dundee. So that gave me the opportunity to go with them and work with some global clients like BP and Shell and Barclays and get to understand those businesses from kind of inside and understand the people challenges, which was great for kind of 11 years or so.
And that must have stood you in really good stead moving into where you are now in terms of the understanding of people and how to help them be the best they can be.
I hope so. Maybe you should get some of the people on from the team after this to say, yeah, that's true or it's not. I think what it does do is kind of heighten the focus on it for you. And it's not something you pay lip service to. So one of the things that I did when we completed the management buyout, it felt like the values of the business were kind of inherited at that point. So we've just recently done an exercise where we've reset the values for the business and given everybody the opportunity to contribute to that so they feel like they can own them rather than just being, something up in the wall type thing. And we also went to our customers and got them to input to that process as well. And maybe if I hadn't been through that Insights journey and understood the value of purpose, the value of values within the organisation and the people part of it, maybe I wouldn't have started at those points, but those were things that I wanted to tackle very early on and kind of resetting, what I was terming at the time Vidatec 2.0, taking it in kind of a fresh direction and reset.
And how did the team respond to those new values and being part of that process?
So they loved kind of contributing to it and being able to have a say in that stuff. We're just now kind of launching into how do we embed them properly in the business. So we'll see how it kind of goes. But we've taken all the feedback and collated that, and the sessions were great. Some of the feedback came in and stuff that I wouldn't have considered really. So we were able to blend that in. We can point back to what values have been created now, to where it came from in terms of who said what, and those kind of clusters of kind of ideas across the business. So responded really positively to it. And, we are a very purpose-driven organisation. So our purpose is about improving people's experience of life and making a positive impact in the world through technology. So I think the kind of people that we attract through that purpose and what we do, they're aligned to values, and that's kind of important to them.
Yeah, we're quite similar. We've got purpose of making lives better. So we've got values, and then we've got behaviours behind that. Yeah. So that's what we kind of try to do, to try and embed it. How are you embedding? Because I think that's, as you say, like, you could just have values and it's something that's on a document or on the wall somewhere, but it doesn't actually reflect the day-to-day, and it kind of almost erodes trust more if you've got something like that. So how do you actually embed that and make it part of the day-to-day at Vidatec?
Well, so what we're creating is champions. Okay. So we're getting nominations in each month around what is it that somebody's displayed to kind of be that value champion as a starting point. Because when you've got them, you want to embed them, and, just having them is just the start of the journey. It's like the old Cotter piece in terms of create that new culture within the organisation, don't let up. So I think from our perspective, it's about continuing to make sure that they're front and centre, and it's not something we pay lip service to. I was at a pitch with a client yesterday, and I think it was slide 3. So there was like an intro slide, our purpose, and then straight into the values to show it's important. And we mapped it to the customer's values to see where there's the overlay for the partnership. But it's about, if they've created the values from what they're doing every day, they know they can live and breathe them, rather than they're these aspirational things over here that are just, out of textbook somewhere. So I think that creation means that it's that stuff that we're already doing, but how do we just continue to live and breathe it and kind of raise the bar as we go?
Excellent.
And I know you did some work with the Olympics as well, is that right? Was that to do with Insights?
It was to do with Insights. So probably started that around about, 2008, 2009, something like that. And Insights had just started getting some contacts from the sports world, and Team GB, I kind of get past that opportunity. Don't know why, don't really look like an elite sport athlete myself, to be fair, but worked with them for a good few years in the lead up to 2012 and then beyond that. And some fascinating work that was going on there. Mainly, we were working with a sports psychologist to help build either the individual athlete's profile about how to understand and cope with pressure more effectively, or something like a Jessica Ennis, for example. She's got like 16 or 17 coaches, which you don't think about when you're just watching the TV. So it was also just about that relationship, making sure that relationship was optimal and they were all in support of the goal. Or if it was something like Team GB hockey, how do they get together as a team and understand each other and they're all pulling the same direction? Because like one of the Insights things that we talk about is we're maybe all heading the same direction, but we're carrying different maps. And this was a way to kind of help bring teams together. But we were able to produce at the end of 2012, like if anybody knows Insights, there's like an Insights wheel where people are placed on it from different positions. And we're able to look at where all the medal winners were sitting that had been through an Insights Discovery Profile experience and had embedded that. So that was a great experience to say you're kind of part of that. I'll claim to my mates that was a much bigger part of it than I actually was, to be fair. But, just to be in that environment and understand that, like that high performance culture, what goes into that, and then seeing the output over, probably longer than 4 years work, but, the 4 year cycle in between the Olympics, delivering such a big bang, particularly with that famous Super Saturday.
And I think it's, we talked earlier as well, it's like, how do you recreate that pressure? So like within sports, it's, how are they dealing with that pressure? And I remember hearing that Johnny Wilkinson, kicking one goal, one penalty kick was easy, but, he would do 100 in a row. And those last 3 or 4 was how he recreated the pressure of kicking it in front of a full stadium. But we don't really do that in business. We don't, if you go, you're saying that sales pitch the other day, like we don't really practice doing it. We just put ourselves into the pressure and suddenly the pressure's on. Do you think there's a way that we can bring that more into the business world?
I think, a lot of the time I was seeing there, not that they were trying to break people, but taking them to that brink. So one of the things, for example, they would do, like in the kind of field team sports, is they would put a referee in to give the decisions against somebody constantly to see how that person would react. So you're always trying to break them with that piece. We don't really do that when we're trying to do corporate training or on a day-to-day piece. There's that constant pressure, obviously. It's almost like game day every day in the business world. But how do we understand and kind of reflect on that piece? So I think the whole kind of performance psychology piece about before an event, during an event and after an event, I think that's the kind of stuff that we miss. We kind of have the event and we quickly move on to the next thing in business rather than that proper evaluation of it. And it's tricky, right? Because you're busy, particularly as a business like ours trying to grow and scale. but trying to get dedicated time to take those points of reflection and learn from what's happened and think about the next time. So, yeah.
Yeah, we try and do after action reviews. So it's what went well, what didn't go well, and what would you change for next time?
Yeah.
And it's a
I find it
constant
really
journey.
interesting how a lot of businesses I encounter don't spend time developing the team or developing the people or help them be the best they can be. Do you know, I always like that phrase rather than get the best out of people, because that really can be the difference between a good business and a great business, can't it?
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate that with the MBO we had a fantastic set of people already there, and it's like how do we help them be the best they can be, and not to continue the sports analogy too much longer, because one of my favourite things, I think we maybe spoke about this when we met a couple of weeks ago, about LinkedIn the day after a big sporting event. It's just full of what lessons can you learn. But when we started the kind of MBO conversation, and the previous chief exec had kind of stepped out of the business, it was just the time of the Ryder Cup in Paris. And Luke Donald was asked, how do you take this massive defeat the last time around to a massive win this time? And he said, look, I just created the environment for people to be the best they can be. It wasn't really about me. And that was the kind of mantra I was taking into Vidatec. These guys are brilliant in terms of technical capability. I'm not a techie in terms of my background, I'm not a coder. So it's just about how do I give them the opportunity to kind of do the best they can do every day, essentially. That's what I see as my role.
And so we go to the MBO. You've been there for 7 years. When was it always a plan to buy out? Was it or did they bring you in as part of the succession planning, or was it something? Did you take it to them? How did that come about?
No, it was an opportunity that landed on the doorstep, essentially. So I think Insights had acquired the previous version of the business around 2015, 2016, something like that. And had a plan about how we were going to take it. And, Insights also, as a kind of the Insights Learning Development business, went through a massive growth spike. So kind of they're at the touching point of £100 million turnover. So like kind of the kind of investment required for both businesses and where the reward was coming from, you could see where the kind of priority focus wasn't. And the core wasn't the same as the business. So there was a decision made where like let's separate the businesses and do what's right for both businesses. And at that point, the previous chief exec, Greg, had said, you know what, I don't want to do that. I want to do something different, which is absolutely fine and fair. And it was like, well, do you want to be part of it and lead the business? And it was like, weighing up the stuff and knowing the capabilities within the business, knowing the opportunities out there, was like, let's do it. I'd read something at the time that I think it was Harvard Business Review says that the ideal age to start a business is 45 or 46 or something like that. And I think it was 47 at the time, going, I'm not too far out of the scope here, it's okay. But kind of what they say is all the learnings and the network and everything you've done through your kind of career up until that kind of age gives you the best chance of success. So, Yvonne, you said earlier about that insights piece and the people part. That's a big part, the kind of classic training through leadership development stuff at Scottish Newcastle back in the day as well. They were all parts of getting me to that point. And I think I was going through a conversation with lots of people coming to us with tech ideas. And there was like, being part of an equity share of a business and all that stuff. And I was always getting, I wish I had a wee bit of that, and Insight's a family-owned business. So I was looking at how do we get that kind of piece for me? And then the opportunity just appeared to buy the business essentially, and thought, let's do it.
And how long did it take from kind of that offer to actually completing it? Because I think people just think these things happen, but I know from experience it can drag out.
And to be fair, it was a friendly MBO. It was something that both parties wanted to happen. We started conversation, I think that was June 23. And I think we'd initially set an ambitious target of getting it completed by about September. Then it was October. Then it was November. Then it was December. We've got to get it done for the end of the year, right? Then it was January. Then it was February. So it was probably about 8 months in total to get that process complete. A lot more in-depth and intense than probably anticipated. And saying that's with willing parties and wanting to get the best outcome for both organisations. It still took time.
And so for people out there considering an MBO, what advice would you give them? What's the experience like emotionally? What do you need to prepare?
I think what's probably slightly not unique about the situation I went in, but I ended up doing the MBO on my own rather than as part of a kind of a management team with equity in the business. So I was carrying that piece. And I think the big stress point for me came from trying to keep the business going on a day-to-day basis and set that new foundation, keep the team together and understand that, I didn't want them to be nervous about coming away from a bigger organisation back into a smaller organisation. I wanted to make sure they felt that this was the right thing for the business. There's all the legal and financial minefield that you get into when you start to look at these things in areas that, I'm not experienced in, and had to rely on a lot of help there. So I think it's about understanding the physical and emotional pressure that will put on you when you try to run the day-to-day business as well as trying to complete this piece over here. And I think that's probably the same for anybody who's trying to go for big investment rounds as well. That becomes a full-time job as well as a full-time job you've already got. So I think the biggest learning curve was trying to probably build in better in the future for us to do something similar for looking after the personal well-being along that journey rather than being so far. I think by the time it came to that Christmas time, I was completely burnt out and was at the stage of, I ain't doing this anymore type thing. I want to walk away from it. But it's been grounded in where's the opportunity? What do you see? If you've got that true belief that you want to take the business on, you can see the opportunity with it. Keeping grounded in, hold that vision and know you've got that opportunity when you came out it, even in those kind of dark days when you're thinking, is it worth it, is it not? Or you're struggling with legal or finance conversations. Just keep grounded in that vision and, the belief in that you're doing the right thing.
And were there any wobbles with the team during that time? Because I guess it's a bit of uncertainty. They're not quite sure where it's going to end up.
I generally don't think so. We were operating as two separate businesses. It wasn't like there was a big integration with Insight. So therefore, it was only, I guess, the concern about there's a financial backing of this big business versus a smaller business that I thought might be an issue for people. But day to day, they were doing the same thing. They were getting the opportunity. I think there was maybe a bit more of a sense of freedom, particularly at the kind of management layer, to be able to set that fresh journey and go after things.
And were the team aware that the MBO was going on for the whole period, that 8 months, or was it just when the
pretty quickly? So that was, I think, the end of June was the first conversation, and Greg stepped out of the business the August time. So pretty quickly after it, because the opportunities for me at that point were, one, I could stay on board and help Insight sell the business to somebody else, and then who knows, either stay with that business or exit at that time. Could do the MBO. There was a kind of an option that I could go back to Insights in a role there if I'd wanted to explore that piece, or I could just say, it's not for me, and just walk away and do something completely different. So we kind of worked through what that was. And then from me, it was like, quickly getting to the point of, I want to do this. This is the only option for me that's on the table right now. And then when you brought the team in, it was like they were all behind it, essentially. So it's never any doubt in my mind it was what we wanted to do.
And I don't know, sorry, I was going to say, for me, when we went through the MBO, the biggest barrier was actually financing it.
Yeah.
And trying to get that. How did you manage to finance it? If you don't mind asking, was it through like a repaying Vidatec or repaying Troy Insights over time, or was it bank financing, or how did you?
Yeah, no, it wasn't bank financing. It was Insights that supported in the main with that piece, which was something I'm very grateful for the opportunity. So I had to put in an investment, that horrible phrase, the hard money, just to make sure you're invested and want to make it work. But yeah, no, the support was there from Insights to help. As I say, it was an MBO that both parties wanted.
Good.
And what a time to be in tech.
Yeah.
And I'm interested, we'll go into tech in a bit more detail in a wee minute, but I'm interested, you said you're not a techie.
Yeah.
How is it leading a tech business as a non-techie?
Well, I keep on saying to techies that tech's the easy part, right? In terms of coding and stuff. It's about, for me, how do you understand the business problems that you're trying to solve? How do you build the relationships that you've got, those long-term partnerships? And then our techies are great at understanding the business and bringing that together and working in a good relationship, but producing a good tech output. So for me, as I said earlier, it's about how do you give them the environment to do what they're great at? But, leading from the front, I believe the kind of chief exec of a tech company should be out there building relationships, working with the customers, understanding what the pain points are, and then just bringing in the clever people behind them to actually fix the problems. So, I'm techie enough in terms of after 7 years here in particular, but it's like in terms of the real code and the real craft and real skill, whether it be, from our side, we do full service. So that's the UI, UX elements. That's the actual development side of it across different platforms. It's tech consultancy. It's the ongoing support, it's a QA element. So, we've got the team there that can come in and support those projects effectively.
So bring that to life for us a little bit. Can you give us an example of someone you've worked with or a project you've worked on and what the outcome was?
I mean, I think there's a lot of great ones there, but probably what we're best known for over the piece was Couch to 5K that we built for Public Health England and managed for a number of years. So we've not looked after it for a couple of years now, kind of post-COVID period. But during that COVID period, for example, I think everybody was using that for their half-hour kind of external exercise they were allowed out the house for. So building something like that as a way to engage people and support people on a journey is, I think, is a great example. And we spoke briefly about purpose of the organisation for Vidatec earlier. I think it's really important when you're looking at digital products to think, what's the purpose? And making sure that it's built for that right purpose. So in terms of the demographics that was aiming at, in terms of the kind of the people and their level of fitness it was aiming at, it's 100% built for them. Now other people might use it, but it's built with them in mind. And I think too often a lot of digital products, and I'm sure we'll cover AI because you can't talk about tech without talking about AI at some point. They stick stuff on, it becomes this big behemoth without, it loses its purpose, it loses its shape by trying to be all things to all people rather than being really clear about the purpose you're trying to serve. So for something like Couch, it was about how do you engage and nudge somebody to do an activity? How do you support them through the activity, and then how do you bring them back in to do the next activity and help them form a habit over 9 weeks? Now, whether it's 9 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it takes to complete it, it's about setting them up and then letting them go. They can go and join a park run, or they can download a Nike run club or whatever it might be. But it's very clear about its purpose. And I think that's one of the things that I've carried into everything we're doing with other projects, making sure that whatever we're building from a tech perspective matches that purpose of what's going to solve the pain point, essentially. And I think right now, the last figures I saw were about 8.5 million people had downloaded Couch to 5K and started running from it, which is great.
I wonder how many people are actually using it though. Sitting on their couch downloading it's quite different to getting yourself outside. And
downloads versus completing the. Was it week 4 or 5? There's a massive jump to a 20-minute run type stuff. Right, okay. But yeah, you kind of tend to speak to people, and most people know of it or have downloaded it or done it. Yeah, whether they say they've advanced through it or not, I don't know. But yeah.
So tech's moving fast. Tell us about the evolution in Vidatec over the last few years. What were you doing? What are you doing now? What are you looking at?
So I think in terms of the core essence of what we're doing in terms of speaking to customers, building relationships, understanding their pain points and building tech solutions that solve that, that's core, and that's going to remain core to what we do. I think the change in the landscape, obviously AI's come in more recent terms to provide different options and provided kind of an acceleration of kind of tech adoption. You look at, we've been using AI for a long period of time, so we've been doing personalization for campaigns and stuff like that for a number of years, but it's really just Gen AI in the last couple of years, which has caused a massive spike through ChatGPT, Copilot, all those kind of things. So we're kind of looking at, one, how do you build the right services, whether AI is part of that solution or not at this stage, and then how do you make the best of the opportunity that's there with AI just now? And I think there's kind of people who've gone big on investment and maybe aren't seeing that return. There's a bit of fatigue around some of that piece. There's a bit where there's a bit of a word I don't particularly like using, but it's called work slop, where it's taking you longer to unpick the work you've done with AI than it would have done to complete the original task type stuff. And then there's a bit of how do you take people on the journey with you? So there's loads of examples out there where organisations are struggling to get, they maybe bought the Copilot licenses and stuff like that, but people aren't getting the adoption rates and the value they're seeing from that. Or you've seen customers and consumers maybe switch off from brands who've started to go down an AI route. It doesn't pass the sniff test for them. So whether that be like last year was a lot of negative press about Duolingo saying they're going AI first, and people felt they were experiencing a slightly poorer quality service. So their chief exec came out and kind of addressed that piece. Or people like H&M put in digital twins, so copying models and no longer hiring models. The consumer just didn't like that and took a wee reaction to it. So I think right now we've got to be careful about how we implement AI, use it in the right way, rather than just kind of sticking it on everything. So it's been a bit of a game changer for us in terms of being able to help customers accelerate projects. And it's been a big part of what we do now. So AI strategy, AI consulting is kind of a proposition that we probably didn't have on the website five years ago.
So are you going in and helping them implement AI within their business, or are you applying it to the solutions that you're kind of...
Both. I think a big part is about AI enablement at this moment in time. So we were doing some work the other day with an international drinks brand where it was getting their marketing team to kind of play with it and kind of launch AI into the business, because there's efficiencies they can get there from, whether that be the research piece, whether that be about kind of support. I said earlier, use AI as a partner rather than seeing it as a tool. So how does it help create the strategy? It's not going to create the strategy for you. You still need that creative mindset. But how do you use it in those ways? So we're helping them with that, from how does that support their business growth? And then in other experiences, we're building out where AI is going to be the kind of bit that really helps the individual use that interface. So if it's complex data in the back end, how do we surface that in the right way? But also, how do we nudge people to go, based on that information, here's what AI can tell you. I mean, it's fascinating. We did one for the Association of Certified Chartered Accountants, and we started building it in some of their coursework to support students. So they've got this agent now they can ask, and one of the key things with AI is making sure it's only giving you back the right answers. So we've kind of controlled, so there's no hallucinations. It's not going out into the big bad internet to find stuff that from a tax or accounting perspective might not be correct or might not be correct for their region.
From Reddit or TikTok or something.
Exactly right. Where's it coming from? So we've done that, and what's fascinating is they're now saying to us that the students are asking different questions of the AI agent than they would of the face-to-face coach, because maybe they don't want to appear that they don't understand to the coach, or come across that they're not getting it, but they're quite happy to ask to this kind of faceless entity. So we're now able to take that data and feed that back in and say, right, well, what does that mean for the course? Is there a particular area where people are consistently struggling, or what are the common themes? And it's great because it means that whatever time of day somebody's doing it, there's some support available, and it's contextualized around what they need. You're not always going to have the coach at the end of a phone you can pick up and ask those questions to. So it's like real-time, contextualized and personalized support that AI can kind of bring to those experiences.
And how do you guys stay ahead of the curve? Because it's moving so fast. Do you have particular time where it's, R&D time for your team? How do you stay on top of all the changes?
One of the things we implemented last year was doing a lot of internal hackathons. So just taking a day in the business for us to tackle a challenge, and we kind of split that into different categories. So there was a couple of ones we did, which was taking a client issue and then feeding that back to the client. So I think it's great to be able to do that and show that you're kind of committed to the client, as well as we're both learning together as a client. And then, you'll get 2 or 3 ideas that are great from that. And then you can start to say, well, what are we going to implement? You'll maybe implement that one first. So there's a bit of a backlog that's created. So that's great. And then some of them are just simply, how are we going to use AI? How AI is going to support our business? So it's trying to give enough space and time to people in the business to play with these things and be knowledgeable. There's a lot of AI we're all trying to work out together, but you're looking at what's coming in the roadmaps from different organisations. And I think it's a really tricky period for people in a product space, because how quickly AI is moving. By the time you build out that feature and launch that, is AI kind of eating your lunch a little bit, in terms of what people are introducing. So yeah, it's just trying to understand the capabilities we've got just now, what's coming down the line, and how do we get the best use of it? Because if somebody says to you just now, here's my 5-year AI strategy, I just tear it up, because nobody can sit and do that just now. So how do we take like a 0 to 12 and 0 to 24 month view for an organisation is kind of where we're at, and trying to take it through. The biggest part we see, and this was Boston Consulting Group information that came out from research, is that 70% of an AI implementation is people in process, right? It's not the tech. They said like 10% of the algorithms and 20% is the tech stack. If 70% is the people in the process, you've got to try and give them the freedom to implement and understand and manage it like a change process, essentially. So giving them that to kind of stay ahead and understand that people in process are so heavy on it, just trying to give them time to do it.
Is that your advice for like businesses out there? Because I think most people go on LinkedIn and see, oh God, everyone's using AI. I'm not using it in my business. I'm behind the curve. Is it just actually setting aside some time for the team to experiment with it, but putting some controls in place? Because I think the other thing is, you're worried about they put up a set of accounts or something like that, and then suddenly it's in the public domain. And
so we were working with a business a couple of weeks ago, and they've got one approved tool in the organisation, which is Copilot, right? And that's where you get most security. So most enterprise level organisations are using Copilot now because of that reason. So what you've got is a scan across the business that showed up there was 109 AI tools getting used, right? And there's only one that's approved. So got to understand, well, why are people using different tools? Is Copilot not giving them what they need? Do they not understand maybe how to use that particular in the right prompts to get what they need? Or are they just got a preference for a different tool? And are they loading data in there or not? All those kind of things. So we very much talk about making sure, if you're using ChatGPT or you're using Claude or Copilot, make sure you're buying the paid for version, because then it's containing your data and you're not, putting stuff out there that can train competitors on commercial value, etc. So I would say pick a couple of use cases, identify them, invest in them, and just go with it. Get started. Because if you don't start, you'll be even further behind. I think I've been to quite a few events where people talk at like a 10,000 foot level and talk about the world of AI, what's going to be, and all the rest of it. There's some simple things you can do just now, just to get started and play with it a little bit. So if people haven't, I would encourage them to do it. If they've started and they're not quite getting the results they want, I'd ask them to go and seek people that can help them, because just the odd little tweak here and there can make a big difference to the outputs that you're getting. But just understand, how is it adding value? How could it add value to your business, rather than this is the answer to all my problems, because it's not that.
I think even just the prompt itself, as a skill, if you're just putting a kind of, like you would put into Google, it's not going to give you the same as if you put a more detailed prompt and stuff like that. So is there any tips or hints for people out there, like how to actually, get the most out of things like ChatGPT, for example?
Yeah, I think you've got to think of it like your partner, right? So therefore, you've got to be able to not just say, build me an Excel spreadsheet, right? You've got to then say, what do you want it to look like? Give them as much information as you can. And there's ways where we're doing this hackathon with the team the other day, and some of them are just putting all the tasks straight in, and they weren't quite getting the outputs they wanted. But you've got to think about building it. You think, if I sat down just now and asked you to do 100 things all at once, how many would you remember to do it and build? So it's like step by step, build it up when you're trying to do like a presentation, and you're thinking, right, I want slides that look like this. Build up the research element, build up the strategy piece, build up what you want it to look like, rather than just giving it as one big piece into something like Copilot or ChatGPT.
So go on then, you did a pitch deck yesterday, I know that.
Yes.
Did you build it in AI?
No, I didn't build it in AI for that one, partly because a lot of the stuff we already had was built, but I used AI as part of the research as we thought about, the client was in the agriculture space, which is not one that we're typically in. But we're in a lot of organisations that we've not got necessarily coming in with that skill set of understanding that business thing. I understand that organisation. It's about understanding the business and working with good people. But we used AI to do a lot of the research. We used AI to mock up a dummy platform of what it could be for them, which is again something that might have taken a number of days before for the team to build that out, but they can build that and pretty quickly to make it look and feel like we could have that. That's great. So we used it in that sense for that, but not the pitch deck itself.
So there'll be some smaller business owners listening to this, some larger business owners. What kind of people will come and talk to you? What kind of businesses would you like to talk to?
I mean, we're fortunate we've got a right mix. So it's great. So if you go onto our website, you'll see we're working with the likes of Heineken, people like St James's Place, etc. Big enterprise organisations, which is fantastic. But one of our favourite ones over the last 12 months has been an engineering company in Edinburgh called Xi Engineering. Probably about the same size as Vidatec as a business, but we've been building out a platform for them to help address an issue in the borders for wind farms. Right, so they're a scale-up business in Scotland, and we love that, being part of their business and helping them realise and achieve some of their goals, rather than it always being, it needs to be a big enterprise business. I think for what we were talking about yesterday in that pitch is, what's the right journey for you? Now it's fine, you might not have the budgets of a Heineken type thing, so don't let that put you off. There's a journey for you. So yeah, people who are looking to scale up and grow their business and have that positive impact are just as important to us as a big, well-known logo being on the website.
So I know you talked about lockdown being tricky. You talked about the MBO being a bit tricky. What other bumps in the road have you had in business that you've learned from?
I think, if you're part of any enterprise organisation, it's never going to go 100% smoothly for you. I remember... I don't think I would say it was a meteoric rise at Scottish and Newcastle, but quite quickly I was into a pretty senior position, probably a little bit too quickly, and then hit the buffers, the bad relationship with a line manager, didn't quite connect, and the business was making some change. I was kind of feeling I was kind of on the outside. And that's tough when you've not faced that in your journey so far. It's kind of test the resilience and understanding, is that what you want to do? So been bumps like that where there's maybe just a little bit blocks in the career more than anything else. But definitely, the likes of lockdown and stuff was just an unknown time for all of us, and nobody had the answers. So from a business perspective, you're thinking, what are we going to do? We had customers, I don't know if you know Bista Village, organisation that runs that value retail, right? The whole idea about there is you go there to see what brands are there. You know, the brands don't want it to be online and see that you can get a bargain deal for a handbag that was £1,200, it's now £400 or £500. So they had no income overnight. You know, the doors are shut. So when you get customers in that space, you want to support them and look at lifetime value, but you know, we've still got bills to pay as a business. So there was working through that stuff. And at the same time as that, I was actually on the shielding list. I'd just got some medical treatment and was told you're going to be locked up for 3 months versus I think everybody was locked up for a month initially. So there was all that kind of, you know, fear, anxiety, ambiguity around what's going to happen and trying to deal with that. So I think that's definitely been the biggest bump. And I'm sure, you know, for guests you'll have along the way here and even into the future, whether it be people who are at university or at school, that's still going to be one of the big kind of moments in people's lives that they've had to deal with adversity and deal with it differently.
And if you're to look over the last few years, what are you most proud of, do you think?
What I'm most proud of? I think there's probably a couple of things. From the business perspective, I'm proud of the impact that we have on our customers and the relationships we've got. So, you know, those customers we've had for 13, 14 years, which is great to be able to talk about that. And you don't get that repeat business unless you're delivering something that's great. And from one side, I think probably having been like kind of more of the corporate guy in terms of, you know, you're taking the salary every month and, you know, you're working in that supported environment, making that shift to, right, we're on our own and making that mentality. Probably pretty proud of how I've kind of handled that. Not saying I've had everything perfect or it's been a smooth journey by any stretch, but I think, you know, where we're at now, starting off, you know, 2026 in a good place. Really proud of the journey that I've been on personally as part of that and the community of support that I've got around me at this time.
No regrets with the MBO?
No regrets, and do you know what? If it all ended tomorrow, definitely no regrets on it either. I think it's been the best thing that I've done in my career, and I've been fortunate. There's been great things in the career so far. I would encourage anybody who's got the opportunity to grab it and take that leap of faith. If there's any doubt, just think about, you know, that positive piece. And again, come back to the sports piece. You know, they always talk about visioning yourself in the podium, what it's going to look like. I think that's the kind of piece you need to do if you're going to go into it. But if you've got the opportunity, I would definitely encourage people to do it.
Good advice. Interested to see what happens next and where you take the company next. We always finish the podcast by asking you, what's your guiding principle in business? I
think it's pretty simple in terms of I want to be good people doing business with good people. Right, so life's too short. You know, there's a lot of people you could go out and get business with, but for me, it's about how do you build those long-term relationships and just be good people doing good business. And if we're making a positive impact on them, then that stands you in good stead for a long-term relationship.
Ross, pleasure to have you on. Thanks for coming on. It's been great.
Thanks.